And welcome to this edition of The Flow. Today, The Flow is so go. I am flowing solo. Well, kinda. Actually, Luis is still in the back recording everything. And we have a very special guest coming to kick it with us today. We are bringing Philipp from sound.io. Fam, you're going to want to hang on tight to your seats. This is cool. You know me, I'm a stickler about audio, and this is kind of crazy. So without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Philipp. I'm going to mess up his last name. Caesar, like in the salad. Or is it
You got it.
Cesar?
Hey,
Which one?
yeah, nice to be here, Doc. Yeah, it's Philipp Caesar. It's a pleasure,
Yes.
to be a guest today. I'm excited for the next hour.
Bro, so first of all, before we go deep into that, like, how did you get your start in audio? I got forced into it because my dad was a commercial producer with audio and video. And back in the day, you remember, like, you always had to record the audio separate from the cameras because camera audio was not really good, still kind of not really good. So my dad was like, here's a tape recorder. Remember Nagra tape recorders? He's like, here's a recorder. Here's a stick with a mic on it. Don't mess this up. That's how I got into audio. And then I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, well, the way I got into audio is I created a startup. I founded a startup which was focusing on video conferencing and scaling it. That's about 10 years ago. And back then, there was no audio video support in the browsers. Chrome was one of the first browsers who created a draft, a spec, to allow capturing audio video devices right in the browser. And that's where the idea was born that you can have audio video communications right in the browser. And we focused on scaling that the original design was meant just on one-on-one. Like if you remember back the days with Skype, where you were just able to have one-on-one conversations. The draft initially was also peer-to-peer, so just one-on-one conversations in the browser. And we started building back-end infrastructure that it can scale, that you can have 100, 200 people in the same conference. Now, we all know all browsers support audio video capturing. We've seen tons of applications, video conferencing applications, where you can bring hundreds of people, even to what we're doing right now, broadcasting it. And so I always stick with the audio video processing part. The startup I co-founded previous to xsound, it's called Welo. It's still around. It's an app for Zoom. It's also if you run Zoom, if you have a Zoom license, you get Welo for free. And it's an app for visualizing the breakouts in Zoom. And we've also built a web version back then, and we also had to struggle, with audio processing. So that's the background where I, worked on audio video conferencing technology, and a couple of years ago started, working on audio processing to remove background noise. The challenging, if you do it in real time, like what we're doing right now, it's a different approach to enhance audio for a live conversation, rather than if you are into post-production where latency 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 doesn't matter. Here, every few milliseconds are important, but if you're in post-production, you can have all sorts of different machine learning models, and the latency is actually not important anymore. And that's where, the idea started. Okay, you can take those learnings and apply those machine learning models to post-processing. That's my story, how I got into audio.
I like it. Well, especially, one of the things that we run into with everyone doing their recording is now we're teaching people to record the podcast live like we're doing now, but then take a version of that, pull it down, clean it up, and then either put the video back on YouTube, open as a public, playlist that now becomes a YouTube podcast on the playlist, and then strip the audio version out and send that audio version to your favorite podcasting host, in our case, Captivate. So that way you can do the traditional Apple podcast track because, well, that's the best way to do it. And I think a lot of people don't understand that polishing it up once you split it out is actually, before it used to be extremely difficult if you weren't like me and you know how to go into your favorite audio editing app and normalize things and compress things and EQ things. But then you come along and it's like, no, man, we're going to make this even easier. So even Paul Duncan can do it. So
Yeah.
let's talk about sound. Because to me, I was immediately blown away, people. I just threw on a file today. And when I saw what happened, I was like, oh my God, this is cool. You guys are going to love this because currently other ways to do this are a little bit more complicated than the way sound does it. So let's go in. Let's take a look. All right. First thing you guys need to know is that I'm going to put a link in the description for you because if you're an Ecamm fan, of course, you know, we came with the special and Phil was nice enough to give us a special. So if you guys want to follow along, I just dropped the link into the chat and then that way Mr. Moderator can have it ready for his reproduction. But basically, yeah, you want to go to xsound.io. That's the answer. And if you click the link that we gave you, then that sets you up for the Ecamm Ecamm special. All right. All right, Luis, let's take a look at the sound interface. Boom.
All right.
So cool.
So as I mentioned, I wanted to address, common audio issues, right? In particular, recording issues, where sometimes your recordings, are not in the best environment. They can happen outdoors. They can happen in in an environment where you just don't have, the best hardware running it. The room is, either too large, too tiny. You have to deal with echo. And sound deals and takes care that even with not the best professional setup, you can still process audio and enhance it that it, will get to professional studio quality. And the way it works is, as you see on the website here, there are actually, sample videos with the enhanced version, with the original version. You can play and listen to them. But I think that the really awesome thing and the neat thing about sound is that it does everything locally on your machine. So it's a machine learning model what runs on your browser. Nowadays, you can package those machine learning models, and there's a technology called WebAssembly that allows you to process media files and applications right in the browser. And that means you can take any of your media files, audio, video, and provide it to Xsound. And I'll just give you an example here with Dinner for One. And this, is not going to be uploaded to a server. This just stays on your machine. And what you can do in here, both for audio and video, you can say you either process the entire file or you want to just process a certain segment of the file. And let me just hit the process button. So now it takes the segment right here, what you see, and it will remove the background noise, remove any echo, but it also does pitch correction. So that means, here for a second, that it adjusts your pitch, your voice in a way where certain frequencies, are being enhanced, where you have clearer voice, lower frequencies, you have a better bass for warmer voice. So that's also part of the machine learning model. Now that it's processed, you can see it in red in here. This is the part, what got enhanced. What it also does is normalization. I've often seen that people upload, media content to channels like YouTube or Instagram, and the sound, the audio line is not normalized. That means, sometimes you have very loud noises. Sometimes it's very quiet, and you don't want the listener to adjust their volume levels all the time. This is actually not AI, but it's something I've seen over and over now that it's a common problem that the audio levels are not normalized. And there's a penalty.
Where it really comes in crazy to me all the time, if you're watching, I love football as in round, favorite team, Manchester United, but I'll be watching some football coverage and they'll have the same exact ESPN FC and they have reporters in 3 different places. And each one, the segment producer, sometimes it's just that reporter, sometimes they have an intern. And the ones that are smart enough to fix the audio, they send it to YouTube at that proper -16 LUFS. The other guys, they just upload the file. So you're watching the exact same clips from the same game, and one of them will come in. Okay, we're live from the field. We're going to be interviewing Phillip, and the other one sounds like now, and it's like I can't hear that, so I'm in the TV or the phone trying to crank it up, and even at the loudest, you can't hear it. And then as YouTube plays the next video automatically, it's like, brah. So please, people, fix your sound. It's really obnoxious to the listener, viewer, listener, whatever. One of those guys.
Agree, and actually, it's just one click. It doesn't even have to be the sound software. A lot of the tools out there, support the loudness normalization. I think it became a standard. How you process the algorithm, the methodology around it. So yeah, it's I built it in just because I've seen so much feedback and struggle people had that the volume was jumping up and down, that I said, okay, I'll just make it part of the application. Coming back, now we have the processed video in here, and you have actually, the enhanced version where you can toggle between back and forth, the original version and then the enhanced version. And, that gives you just a live preview on how the enhanced version will sound, how it hopefully, improved your original audio file. And then when you're done, you can just click Save to Disk, and you're finished with the enhancement part. There are, tweaks. You can set the noise removal strength. I've seen, content creators who like some, amount of background noise, like capturing from the woods, like bird noises and so on. So you can adjust it, how much of the background noise, you want to keep in there, or, sometimes you just want to get rid of all of it.
That's cool. Sometimes, when you remove too much of the background noise, it almost sounds underwater. So yeah, it's cool to have a slider in there so you can at least leave some of the ambiance in there, right? It'd be really weird if you're at a conference and everybody knows there's 1,000 people walking around, but you're like almost dead silent. That won't make sense to your eyes either. Super cool. Yeah. And it's just that simple. Like I'm still blown away because I've been uploading files to get fixed for going on 15 years. I'm blown away by how quickly you can actually see what's going on. And because it's in a web browser, here's a question. Oftentimes I do a reel or a TikTok. And me personally, that's another place where you hear people with bad audio. So I have a shortcut on my iOS device that's designed to strip the audio out and save it, basically using like the built-in UU binary that's in the iOS app, save it in the files, then I upload that file to get fixed. And then I take the fixed one, download it, then I got to open back up my editing program on my phone and then stick the two back together. Are you able to upload from a phone as well, being that it's a browser?
That's a really good question. Yeah. I made a choice because, this application, as I said, it runs locally on your device. Desktop devices are powerful. They can run those machine learnings and do the enhancement. On a smartphone, it's tricky because it takes a lot more time. And as we know, the app has to stay open, or, the web browser has to stay open. And on smartphones, we often just don't have the time to keep it open.
Yeah.
As I said, unfortunately, smartphones are not as fast as those desktop devices.
And then you'll get a call in the middle and screw everything up.
Exactly. Yeah. What I've done right now, having a choice, building apps where you process the audio files and media files. As an alternative, I created a WhatsApp integration, a WhatsApp bot. So what that means is, have you used WhatsApp?
Oh yes.
And I know in Europe or Asia, it has a lot more market share. I think in the US, it's growing for sure. From what I read, iMessage is still more popular. But let me just ask: do you have experience with WhatsApp?
Yeah, because I'm in Japan probably 2 months out of the year. If I add up, the 2 weeks at a time that I go like 4 times a year, I average about 2 months a year in Japan. So it's pretty normal.
Great. So I created a bot in WhatsApp. It's just like one of your contacts you can add to WhatsApp, and you can chat with that bot and provide your media files. So just right from your phone, you can provide your audio or video files, and the bot in WhatsApp will process those files, and after a couple of seconds, will turn them back as the enhanced version. That's how I solved it right now. That you can process files on a phone.
That's actually that's brilliant as well. Yeah, that's cool. Well, I mean, that works. It's as long as there's a possibility. But nowadays, the amount of content that you have to create in order to promote your business, or just stay relevant, is important. So having have a way to do it, even without 9 times out of 10, my computer is with me anyway, just because it's so small and fast. Like I just enjoy having it. It's not like we're slugging that 17-inch MacBook around anymore.
Yep.
That's super cool. All right, let's take a listen to the enhanced version. Let's hear how you made it sound. I'm actually curious.
All right, let me just actually go over here and go here on, because I went back to present the. This one is a good one. Yeah, Queen Elizabeth speech. There's a famous historic speech in there.
I shall look back.
Let me just check in here. You're hopefully able to hear the audio, because with the screencast here.
We can.
Great. All right. So let me take here. Let's take here like 30 seconds and then enhance this part. This is the original speech, and there's a lot of echo in there, a lot of background noise, and it's kind of hard to follow. I had challenges following her speech. So let's wait till the processing is finished. And again, this all happens on my machine. It will not be uploaded to a server. All right. So what it does, it takes out the audio line, what you shared before, you experience on separating audio and video. It takes out the audio line and the audio track, enhances those parts, and then puts them back together. That's just what you see when it says loading assets, where it merges back audio and video together.
And it's so quick.
Let me play it here.
Thank you also for inviting representatives of so many organizations with which I and my family have special connections.
Let me jump right here.
Of the border. This is a real gathering of the clans. 1992 is not a year on which I
put myself here in low volume. I didn't want to distract the recording, the podcast here. But hopefully you can hear the difference.
My more sympathetic
this speech now should not have the echo, the background noise, compared to the original version.
Yes, you can absolutely hear the difference. That is crazy. Now, our moderator, Paul, had a very good question. Paul wanted to know, can you just give it an audio file too?
No, of course. It can also just be an audio file. That works as well.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Let me give you another example here of an audio file that you can see an audio example here.
What I like about this is the simplicity of the interface.
Yeah, I'll give you an audio file. Let me just bring up in.
A good-looking widget is essential for the conversion.
That's how it looks like with an audio file. Let me also just run the processing. This should be fairly quick, just because it's 7 seconds.
A good-looking widget is essential for the conversion. Also, it has to fit your corporate identity.
All right, here we go. That's how you process the audio file.
Love it. Super. Paul gave you the thumbs up. That is super cool. Again, the simplicity of it is good, because I think a lot of people, when they see some of the options that are out there available for them, they get scared by the amount of buttons that one would have to press in order to get the answer that they want. And that sort of freaks them out, right? I think it's really cool that you're simplifying it. You're making it accessible for someone who's maybe a little terrified of what the other options might be. And they just throw the file in there, select background noise level, and call it a day. So that's super amazing.
Yeah, I think that's also, where AI and particular machine learning models can help, because they can detect what type of content it is. And because, there are different, like, distinct use cases. A podcaster, operates often in a studio where background noise removal is not as important. It's more important to, remove filler words, mouth noises, silence. And while, like, content creators, especially when they're outdoor, when they're creating content for TikTok and Instagram, they have to deal with, environments with background noise. And they have just a short clip often where, they prepare for it. There are not as many, filler words like silence and so on. So that's a different use case. But I think what's so interesting and fascinating about those machine learning models is that they can detect what type of content it is. Like, similar as you hear, the machine learning model detects it's 90%, 93% speech, 3% silence. It knows that this recording happened in a small room, because then you don't need all those tweaks and options to get it right for you. The machine learning model, can optimize it, based on what type of, audio or video you're producing.
Correct. And somebody mentioned, or Video Like a Dad mentioned, that the audio come down. Sometimes when you put in a file, you're actually hotter than you want to deliver that file, and so the machine learning is smart enough to bring it back into a level that's going to work. But also, all of this repair work, as magic as it is, you also cannot just completely just make up things whole cloth right now. So sometimes, in order to get the room level in check, you do have to bring the audio down. And that's always been, when we do it manually, that has always been one of the challenges when you get stuck in a decision between going for, this is so crazy, I'm going to confuse people. I'm going to try not to. There's a massive difference between level, gain, volume, and loudness. There are three different things. To the general common person, it sounds like the same thing. How big is it? That's not really the truth, right? So level, gain, volume, and loudness are all different. And when you're working in a loudness model, you're going for the entire overall, right? So that's from the lowest low to the highest high, and any background noise. You're getting an overall picture. When we say loudness, we're talking about K weight. That's, yeah. So sometimes you do have to bring down the gain of a particular clip in order to get it into proper loudness levels. So don't be confused just because the meters go down. And in some cases, when you drop it back in your editor, you might be able to give it a little bit of more gain and not break it. Oftentimes you can't. It just really depends on the source file.
Right.
I hope that makes sense. It made sense to me, but I feel bad because I've been doing it for so long. It's really hard to explain some of this, but I've definitely been in a situation where we're filming, and before the lens caps, everybody had a string on the lens cap. You notice nowadays camera manufacturers don't do that anymore, because you would disconnect this and it's hanging there, and the wind blows, and all you hear is and your whole recording, because the wind's blowing the lens cap against it. Now we just let people lose lens caps because it's so much better than getting yelled at about this clicking sound throughout their entire audio clip. And those are super hard to repair, because
I
every
didn't
click
know
that
that.
happens,
That's really interesting. Yeah.
right? If you remember the old school days, lens cap always had a string on it. And everybody just got so mad because I was recording this wedding, and right when they're giving the speech, all you hear is clicking and I can't take it out. And the best audio tools back in the day were, $250,000 and required a silicon graphics machine. And so now everybody's just like, I'll resell you a $2 lens cap, but I'm not going to get yelled at about your bad audio.
You know what? I had another interesting learning just yesterday. I talked to a podcaster, and he shared a study with me that, according to that study, 25% of podcast listeners use 1.2, 1.5, or 2 times the speed to playback. And that's interesting because if you listen to that playback in that much, in that speed, the audio will really suffer. Where I'm like, okay, you can have the best, audio enhancement and all that, but yeah, right now, the applications are not really specialized or allow better audio quality if you have the fast play function. And I was just surprised to hear if is it really that much. 25% of people listening to podcasts play it faster than the original version.
Yes, it's funny. And you're right about, okay, so there's some apps that will do a voice enhance, and they're basically trying to do what you do, but they're doing it the way we did it on a say like a Nakamichi EQ back in the day, right? You would just do a little, where the frequencies are for the general voice. They just kind of pick those up. And it's designed because they know that many podcasters don't have necessary good audio, so they try to make it easier for you in your car to be able to hear this, and they take into account what the outside frequencies are probably like. But you're right. The minute you go to like 1.5, 1.2 or 1.5, none of that stuff works because they can't do both of those calculations at the same time. What's funny is somebody told people that for productivity, if you would crank the speed up, you can listen to more podcasts. And I'm like, but can you really? Like, you might hear every word, but I guarantee your comprehension suffers a little bit. But even that said, I listen to 1.5 all the time, especially when you listen to people who talk slow. So I'm laughing because Luis, our producer, put in 1.5 to 2 as well. That's because he and I are native Spanish speakers. In our culture, we speak fast, and the rest of the world speaks hella slow. So to us, a 1.5 is a German 1,
Yep.
And then when I'm in Japan, I like the west side, or basically Osaka side. Osaka's people speak twice as fast as Tokyo people. So even if I'm listening to stuff in Japanese made by a Tokyo person, I'll crank it up because my brain is just used to hearing it quicker. So maybe that's true.
Well, and sometimes it's just your estimated time of arrival when you're in the car, and you have 20 minutes. This podcast takes 30 minutes. Yeah, that's the way to go. I get it. Yeah.
So what's curious is now I noticed in one of your things you have on here is the natural pitch correction. Could you explain that a little bit more? Like, I'm super intrigued by that.
Well, the idea came from it's also a company. I think I'm based in Munich, Germany, and the company is called Melodyne. Melodyne. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they're used by artists, in the music industry to where you can manually adjust the pitch in an editor that it perfectly matches the song tones to the music. It's a little bit like autotune, but I personally feel like autotune sometimes it just the voice sounds too synthetic.
Yes, it sounds too processed. Yes.
Yeah, and I think with Melodyne, it's a nice balance that it doesn't sound too processed, but it really matches up the vocals matches up the music. How do you say the music tones? And with the pitch correction, the machine learning model, what it was trained on, was trained on professional speakers where their voice, also articulates certain words, sentences in a way we, receive as clear and appealing, their sound and their voice. So to a certain degree, that machine learning model does the same with your voice, that it adjusts the pitch slightly. I think it's important really to, keep the characteristics, the original voice, that it's not someone else. That's, I think, really, I'm still struggling like with the voice cloning applications out there. I've not seen one where you have a proper voice clone and you really say, yeah, that's my voice.
No, you can, and you're right. How you can normally tell is pitch inflections and oftentimes the spacing, that natural spacing between a thought or finishing a sentence or the excitement level change in the sentence. Now, this is going to sound crazy. So we're talking, say we're talking about a football match, and we're Man U, Bayern Munich. happening. We just got annihilated. But in the middle of that conversation, you get to part of the story, and you go to talk about a tackle or a shot. You will lift up a little bit in excitement because that's the action part of the statement, and then it'll drop back. And it's super subtle if you listen to people when people talk. None of the AI stuff can pull that off. So you can always tell. And it's not because people says it sounds robotic. Audibly, it doesn't sound robotic, but emotionally it sounds robotic. And that's how you can tell. Unless you just have a friend like Paul Duncan who talks like that all the time. But normally there's a little bit of like, the pace picks up a little bit, or there's some like tightening. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but I can hear it. I can hear it right away. I can always tell. I don't know how people get fooled by deep fakes. I really don't. Because I can tell all of them. And I'm waiting for someone to play me one, and I want to be fooled because right now I can spot them.
I think those characteristics, they matter a lot. As you mentioned, like the high pitches, or people express their emotions. And I've not seen a machine learning model which can capture that quite well. So back to your question, the pitch correction happens at a small amount of level with the adjustments. I try to really balance it, that I don't lose the original voice, and people can still tell and say this is my voice, and not some synthetic computer voice.
That's super cool. Well, and again, that's how you often. I know, as a person who speaks multiple languages, the one dead giveaway from someone who speaks it all the time is there's always, say maybe socially there's an infliction on a word that the foreign person just can't do because there's more than just the word has a meaning. The entire societal or cultural background behind it also means something else. So when you say it, you might be able to repeat it phonetically. You might be able to, just hit all the right levels, but you are missing a little style in that word, right? So they're just, no matter how much you study, you're not going to get it. And when one of the reasons why people ask me, like, how long did you study Japanese? And I'm like, well, technically only a year in college. And they're like, but you're so fluent. And that's because I went deep on the culture side in order to learn the language. I didn't just learn how to repeat words. I can repeat words in German. That's why I sound like crap. But culturally, I can do like nichts verstanden Deutsch or wie geht ab Hammer, like that. I can say weird stuff like that. I don't really understand the cultural statements behind them. So it probably, like, Doc, that was the worst German I ever heard. Yeah, I accept that. But like in Japan, because I studied the culture first, I don't have an American speaking Japanese accent. And that freaks people out. They're like, how the hell did you do that? And I'm like, because it's just the culture. If you understand the culture, you understand where the words come from. And then there's a different way you let that roll off your tongue. So natural speech is super important. And a lot of the things that make it sound better technically ruin that. And that's always been a challenge as a person trying to edit a podcast. Is like, I don't want to take away this person's feeling, but if I over compress it, you can kill the feeling by over compressing it.
Yeah. And I think that, it's a big difference, why, I hope podcasts with, original voices, human voices will still be around for a long time. Because I enjoy, I personally enjoy these expressions, the different levels of pitches in the voice, when people like laugh, when they're getting angry, when they make a joke. And we'll see, with the development of AI, how fast the machine learning models will, able to even make up for that and simulate that. Who knows? But hopefully we're not getting replaced too soon.
No, not the best AI app opportunity would be some sort of significant other translator, so that when they say stuff, we actually know what they mean instead of we're supposed to guess. If you can figure that out, Phil, you'll be rich.
Which is, there are apps for translation. Like you can upload your podcast, including video, and then applications. I've seen a couple of applications they translate it into another, whatever language you want, and they try to match the lip sync, but it's still awkward, especially when you're laughing, when you're in a good mood, when your expression, you have emotions. Those, the lip sync then just fails and it's not able to capture that.
Have you checked out some of the new sort of auto translation from Meta? And for me right now, their translations into Japanese or Korean are pretty horrible. And those are harder languages to do because I can't speak to a person 1 year older than me the same way I can speak to a person that's younger than me. So for instance, if I were speaking Korean, my conversation to Paul would be completely different from my conversation to Luis. Even though we're all best friends in English, in those languages, I have to give Paul more respect because he's almost 80. And, those models, not really, those models don't know how to do that. What is your take on some of these auto translation models as a person who's multilingual?
I'm always impressed, with those models in English. And I guess, that's one of the broadest markets out there where research happens, where our business opportunities are. Because when I compare it to German, in particular to the southern parts where you have different accents, I have not seen support. In English now, you can, choose those auto translators. You can say you want a Californian accent, you want to have a Southwestern accent and so on. For German, I have not seen that. And believe me, there are a lot of different accents, in the southern part. Yeah, which is not supported. So I'm not a native speaker in English. So that means I'm always impressed when I see, translation app, text to speech recognition and all that. For me, that seems to work pretty well. But when it comes to German, I still, I still think it's not at the same level compared to English.
That's crazy. I was in Stuttgart, and my best friend is from Koblenz, and the other one's from Munich. So even for them, when they're talking to each other, I can hear the difference. You know what I mean? But the kid that kind of grew up in Munich, his dad was also Army, so his is more flat. Whereas when Patrice goes, the Koblenz just has a very distinct pitch, especially when it comes to excitement. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I can just hear the inflections, And I don't know, where did you study your English? Because your English is actually phenomenal.
Thank you. I went to high school for 1 year in Wisconsin. That was back in 2004. Yeah. Which was interesting because, I did the school exchange, and they in their advertisement, they said, you got to go to Hawaii or California or New York. And then when, a host family picked me and I got this letter where, I got to learn about my destination. Wisconsin? What's that?
Dude, you definitely should have picked Hawaii. See, then you would have been at least listen to me on the radio. You would have known who I was already.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't pick. A lot of those exchange programs, the way they work, they don't pick the best. They match the families where they say, you have the best match with the host family. By the way, it was great. Wisconsin is great. I loved it. That's where I got to improve my English a little bit in 2000.
And you get the world's best cheese.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the first stories I got told. These cheese hats. I guess it's a rumor, but someone told me there was a plane accident and someone survived because he was wearing that cheese hat. I'm pretty sure it's a rumor. Yeah.
Well, considering they just won a big game yesterday to beat the Cowboys, or day before yesterday, I don't know, everybody's buying cheese hats now. So, man, that is so crazy. Phil, this has been awesome. I can't wait to play with it some more. I know that this is going to come in handy. Luis and I are about to go to Podfest with Katie. So we're going to be doing a lot of recording out in the field. So being able to run back to the hotel, polish the sound real quick, and then send the video on, phenomenal. Like absolutely phenomenal. Like I'm down. And I tell you what, if I'm willing, I can't wait to play with the WhatsApp side of it too, because I know for a fact I'll be making a lot of short form content. So being able to fix that will be just incredible. Don't forget, guys, you can absolutely hit that link. Paul posted it recently in the chat. So hit that link so that way you can get the Ecamm Fam special and, you know, support Phil. There's a lot of options out there, but I'm going to say support Phil because, you know, he's cool. As they say in Germany, he's Hammer.
And by the way, this is like an indie project. It's pretty much just me. There's not a big corporation behind and so on. And I think it's also just learning, you know, applying some machine learning models to the feedback from the community, from, you know, they're great people I work with. They provide me great feedback. And I think there's a big opportunity on, you know, matching their feedback, their requirements, their ideas with, you know, machine learning models.
Man, this is super cool. I just like the fact that you took a problem and like, I can see where this can help people. So let me just attack this. And that's how the best stuff is made. You know, that's literally how we got Ecamm. Ken and Glenn was like, Facebook is making video and this is way too complicated. Let's come up with a way to make it easy for people who want to stream to Facebook, do it. And next thing you know, we got this cool app in the big community and, you know, all these people that we call the Ecamm Fam. Literally just from somebody wanting to solve a very simple problem, more or less, you know, to make it easier for other people. So I think that's built into the DNA. And I knew that our companies would match because that's our company saying we want to stay small, we want to stay nimble and sort of family oriented, you know, kind of situation. And so, yeah, it's cool. Welcome to the Ecamm Fam, Phil. Cannot wait to get a chance to just hang out with you, and then we can talk story about cheese. That's my favorite thing in the world. And I'm gonna have to hit you up for a recipe for Käsespätzle because my friend makes it for me. He won't tell me how to do it. And I've seen the YouTube videos. It looks simple, but I've tasted differences between good ones and bad ones, so it's not as simple as the ingredients make it seem like.
Yeah, I should improve my Käsespätzle skills. They're not. I think I'm good in cooking soups. I'm really into soups. Also, like a Bavarian style soup. It's called Grießknödel soup. You know, next time we'll see. Maybe I have better Käsespätzle skills.
Okay, that works. Yo, it's seriously one of the best things in the world. Don't confuse it. It's not macaroni and cheese. It's way better. If you get a chance, get in there. Fam, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Captivate. Captivate helps us put this together, and it's just the greatest platform out there. It's very simple. It's very easy. All you really have to do is upload your file after you sent it to Sound. Upload your file, and it will send it to all of the podcast getting places wherever that podcast getting is got. We also have a brand new page available. If you go to flow.ecamm.com, you will see that it's sitting on Pod Page, which means you can leave us a voicemail. And man, we've had the opportunity to get some voicemails. We'll get those read out for you coming up soon, but you can drop us a voicemail. You can get all the episodes. You can leave feedback. So all of that part is there. So make sure you go to flow.ecamm.com and that will lead you to wherever your podcast getting is got. It's just been an amazing episode. And Phil, appreciate you. Make sure you guys check it out. I'm going to mess this up. xsound.io. I did it. I think I did it. If not, Paul, give you the link in the bottom. You got to go check it out. This has been fantastic. I want to say goodbye to everybody in our listening audience, the people that are here for the live taping. Stick around if you have a question. Drop it in real quick before we roll, and we'll see you guys next week. Flow Riders, out!